Hi students, once again I am meeting you to discuss about the applications of biotechnology, the different fields, how far biotechnology has been useful, and that is the common part both for biozoology and zoology. Here are tools. I have something only for the pure science, not for biozoology. It is concerned with only zoology and the lesson applications of biotechnology. Now what is actually the part? Regulations in biotechnology. What is the meaning of regulations in biotechnology? That is actually the next part, only for pure science, not for biozoology. So regulations apply to the production, sale and use of biotechnological products and genetically engineered or genetically modified organisms. That is what is called the regulations. So it applies to the production, sale and use of biotech products and genetically modified organisms, simply called as GMOs, genetically modified. They are also called genetically engineered organisms. Okay. So normally the genetically modified organisms are carefully tested and documented, making the notes documented before they are available to the persons, before available to the public or to the society. This is number one. And again, GMOs should be labeled, actually should be labeled and used. That is according to the instructions. We cannot use any GMOs as our will. We have to follow the instructions given by authority, the committee. Accordingly, only you have to just use the genetically modified organisms. Now, what for these regulations? Now these regulations are designed, what for? To protect the people, the living organism and the living system and the environment. So we have designed these regulations of biotechnology, what for? To protect the people, to protect the living organisms or the systems and also the environment. We have various committees set up to our advisory committee or panel, etc. set up to just actually regulate what is called biotechnological products or genetically modified organisms. I'll start with one. Number one, BRAI, B-R-A-I. Now, it is nothing but Biotechnology Regulatory Authority of India. Biotechnology Regulatory Authority of India. So what is the meaning for that one? So that BRAI is a proposed regulatory body. A proposed regulatory body. What for? In India. For use of biotechnological products or biotechnology products, including the GMOs. So we can use only just after getting what we have patent or any what we have the admissions, then only you can use that one. So BRAI is a proposed regulatory body in India. What is the purpose? For use of biotechnology products including genetically modified organisms. This is number one. The next one we have to go for GAC, genetically engineered, what is called advisory committee, genetically engineered advisory committee. We will talk about one by one the various what we have, actually the committees. They are responsible for regulating or monitoring, acting as advisory committees. So the different committees are either advisory committee or monitoring committee, any other committee, for example the regulatory body, etc. You will explain one by one. Now the second committee is GAC. This is nothing but genetically engineered approval committee. It is an example for approval committee. BRAI, a regulatory body. This is an approval committee giving approval for anything, passing the bills, etc. So it is a body under the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climatic Change. In India, concerned with India only. Responsible for the approval of what we have the genetically modified products. So before releasing the products, we have to get the approval. That approval is given by the advisory committee, namely GAC, or we can say genetically engineered advisory committee, approval committee, giving approval. Now the next one, environmental appraisal panel. What's meaning for that one? Suppose approval is given by this committee. If the bill is passed, that is accepted, the responsibility will be taken over by Environmental Appraisal Panel. So if the bill is passed by whatever GAC approval is given, what will happen? It is passed. Once passed, that is a bill, the responsibility will be taken over by another panel, what is called Environmental Appraisal Panel. A subdivision of BRA. It is a subdivision of a regulatory body, that is BRA. That is what we have, Biotechnology, Regulatory, Advisory, or just what we have, what is called Advisory Committee of India. Okay, BRAI. Okay, so Environmental Appraisal Committee or the panel is a one. Once the bill is passed, actually the responsibility will be taken by this one. It is a subdivision of BRAI. So Biotechnology, Regulatory, Advisory, just what we have, the India. Okay, the bribe, the what we studied already. Now, the bill also proposes, once passed, setting up interministerial governing body. A governing body has been set up once the bill is passed to oversee the performances of BRAI, and another one what is called National Biotechnology Advisory Council. So their activities, their performances are governed by another body just after the bill has been passed, and this one what is called BRAI as well as National Biotechnology Advisory Council. These two are actually governed by or overseen by what we have, just the bill. Once the bill has been passed, so the bill also proposes, once the bill has been passed, according to the bill, now a committee has been set up, a body has been set up to oversee the performances of BRAI and National Biotechnology Advisory Council of stakeholders. Stakeholders means a party, independent party with whom the money is deposited. Independent party with whom just it is waged. That is, the money is waged, the money is what we have just deposited. That is called stakeholders. Independent party with whom the money is deposited. What for? To provide. What we have? To provide a feedback. What for? On the use of, import and manufacture of biotechnology products and organisms in the society. All being set up because, or once the bill has been passed, what for? To just give you feedback on the use of, or import and the production of biotechnology products and organisms in the society. So one of these, I will just continue. I will continue just about the statement here. Okay. A governing body has been set up to oversee the performances of what is called Biotechnology Regulatory Authority of India as well as National Biotechnology Advisory Council of stakeholders. I mentioned already stakeholders, the independent party with whom the money is deposited or managed. What for? To provide feedback on the use of or import and manufacture of biotechnology products and organisms in the society. So all being set up to just oversee the performances. What for? To provide feedback on the use of, then import and manufacture of biotechnology, that is the products and the organisms, what we have genetically modified organisms in the society. Now what about the regulatory body? The regulatory body, just like BRAI, is an autonomous and statutory body, permanent body. Autonomous body, independent, statutory means permanent body. What for? To regulate the research, import, transport and manufacture of, that is, various biotechnology products and the organisms. That is what we have actually the regulatory body. The regulatory body is a permanent body and also autonomous body to regulate research, import, transport and manufacture of what we have the biotechnology products and the organisms what we have in the society. Okay, that's about that one. Now the next one, SBCC. That is nothing but State Biotechnology Coordination Committee. State Biotechnology Coordination Committee, that is called SB. that is SBCC, and DLC, District Level Committee. These two committees are responsible for assisting GEC. So GEC is assisted by what we have SBCC and also DLC. And these two are the monitoring committees. These two are the monitoring committees. GEC is an advisory committee. We have also some more advisory committees. And BRAI, the regulatory body. Now these two are monitoring committees. They are working under the control of GEC, monitoring or looking after what we call the activities happening at the district level and the state level. So that's about what we SBCC and DLC. Now we have to go for the next one, institutional biosafety, or what's called biotechnology safety, biosafety. Okay, just the council or committees. The next one. Now the next committee is IBSC, Institutional Biosafety Committee. Institutional Biosafety Committee. It is an advisory committee along with the GEC. It is responsible for the local implementation of guidelines, how to follow the regulations, rules about the what we have the biotechnology products, implementation of guidelines, local implementation. I mentioned already it is an advisory committee. The next one, RCGM. It is also another advisory committee. We have GAC. Now this one, what we have IBSC and RCGM are advisory committees. And we have DLC. What we have actually district local committee, and then what we have the state biotechnology coordination committee. These are the monitoring committees working under GAC. Okay, now so RCGM, review committee on genetic manipulation. Review committee, they have to undergo review about what we call the genetic manipulation. I mentioned already addition, deletion, etc. to produce a genetic transgenic organism. So it is an advisory committee. It is responsible for issuing permits, whether it has to be implemented or not. It is an important committee. So these are important committees. One we have IBSC and then RCGM. Now it is responsible for issuing permits. Generally, GAC is responsible for monitoring. Just we have large scale and commercial just use of transgenic materials. As a whole, it is a major one, just under which only we have the monitoring committees. It is responsible for monitoring large scale and commercial use of what we have transgenic materials. Okay, now the biotechnology industry, normally we can say it is an industrial science. The biotechnology industry is governed by what we have different enactments made by the government, enactments, depending on their what we have the relevance and applicability. We can say applications or applicability. As per the book, I am taking that one, applicability. On a case-to-case basis. So on a case-to-case basis means you have to study one case. Suppose one organism is produced by means of what is called genetic modification, and if you have to go for the next one by one only, you have to look into what we have the nature of genetically modified organisms. That is called a case-to-case basis. So that is about what we have the industry governed by the enactments, depending on the what we have the relevance, whether it is related to or not, applicability, whether it is applicable for life or not. On a case-to-case basis, studying each and every transgenic animal for the usage. Okay, that's about one. Now let's go further. A publication, what is called Recombinant DNA Safety Guidelines 1990, were published, were normally just actually released by Department of Biotechnology. And normally the one which covers areas of research, it is concerned with the research involving genetically engineered organisms. And these guidelines were revised in 1994. Okay, so this is the publications, Recombinant DNA Safety Guidelines 1990, published by Department of Biotechnology. It is covering the areas of research related to genetically engineered organisms or genetically modified organisms. And these guidelines were revised in 1994. Now, the RCGM, Review Committee on Genetic Manipulation, one of the advisory committee, and a DPT comprises the representatives of DPT. So this RCGM and a DPT comprises the following representatives of DPT. Number 1, Indian Council for Medical Research. Number 2, Indian Council for Agricultural Research. Number 3, Indian Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. And these were normally the representatives of what is called RCGM and a DPT. Different areas covering just research work. Okay, that's about what we have. And a few words about what's called licensing and also TRIPS. If anybody wants to produce drugs or medicines, anything else through industries, they need industrial license. So the Industrial Licensing under Industrial Act 1951, this is called Industrial Act. It is compulsory for the production of bulk of drugs through recombinant DNA technology. One has to get the license, that is called the licensing under Industrial Act 51 for bulk production, large amount of production of what is called the drugs through recombinant DNA technology. Now the next one, what do you mean by TRIPS? TRIPS. Trade related intellectual property rights. Trade related intellectual property rights. So being a signatory in TRIPS, India, agreement of World Trade Organization. We have an agreement with the World Trade Organization. We are the signatory beings. We are included under this. We are under WTO, World Trade Organization. India has amended its legislations. What for? Pertaining to the intellectual property. The one has to get the property on his own, on his name. That is called intellectual property. Through various legislations or amendments made by the government, either in the parliament or in the assembly, including patents. We'll talk about the patents, the right to have its own products, a license. No one can normally claim it. That is called the patency. So legislations including the patents, that act is called 1999 Act, amendment. This is normally amended by Indian government pertaining to the intellectual property as per what is called World Trade Organization instructions. Now including the patents, different legislations were made. That act is called Act 1999. That is called the TRIPS. Okay, Trade Related Intellectual Property Rights. That is an expansion. This is the acronym name. Okay, now this are all what we have completed. I want to give a simple table column showing the different what we have the committees and what is the role, whether they are advisory or monitoring, or we have just what is called the regulatory. Okay, I represent it in the form of a tabular column. The following table shows the different committees and their role, either advisory or approval or monitoring or as a regulatory body. I already discussed all these things. Number 1, RD, this is the one I did mention, Recombinant DNA Advisory Committee. The name itself shows it is an advisory committee, Recombinant DNA Advisory Committee. Then we have IBSC, Institutional Biosafety Committee. The next one, Genetically Engineered Approval Committee. The next one, Review Committee on Genetic Manipulation. These three committees are giving approval. That's why they're called as approval committees. Then the two, they're working under the control of GAC. Number 1, State Biotechnology Coordination Committee, SBCC. Another one, District Level Committee, DLC. These two are monitoring committee, looking after the work given by GAC. Now we have the main regulatory body. What we have, BRAI. So Biotechnology Regulatory Authority of India. Biotechnology Regulatory Authority of India. That's about what we call the different committees, the regulations of biotechnology or the regulations in biotechnology. And we have to proceed the risk of GMOs. What are the risks we have to face when we are using the genetically modified organisms in the next class.